This book, urban farming, rebirth, era, countryside, has no system, no abilities, only female lead, no harem. The repentance at the end of the previous life is exchanged for the current rebirth. The male protagonist Young was reborn in 1987 when he saw his wife raise a knife and cut him in the throat. At the critical moment, Young suddenly rushed forward and took off the knife. How to proceed in the future, all in the book. Chapter 1. Rebirth to 1987. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'm still rescuing in the ICU room, aren't I? How did I get here? Young had a splitting headache and slowly stood up. He looked up and saw a brick house from 40 years ago. Am I being reborn? Was I reborn 40 years ago? Young reached out his hand, which was covered in bloodstains. He remembered. One day, while he was not paying attention, the dog suddenly pushed him down and hit the back of his head against a stone. He was knocked into a daze and didn't expect his soul to be reborn at this moment. June 6, 1987. He's ecstatic. Is it possible to see Tian, my wife whom I haven't seen in 40 years? In this life, we must cherish the opportunity to be with her. Young turned his head and looked around, looking for his wife Tian's figure. Suddenly, a burst of painful crying came from the room. Young, I have been with you for 3 years, abide by women's ethics, and have never done anything wrong to you. I didn't expect you would rather believe others than me. A young woman with disheveled hair and a kitchen knife rushed out of the adobe house, followed by a 4-year-old girl crying and calling out for her mother. Young, today I will use my life to prove my innocence. Her eyes were filled with hatred, and she was determined to die. She raised her kitchen knife without hesitation and swung it towards her throat, chopping it. Young was greatly surprised. This scene is too familiar. His wife Tian picked up a kitchen knife and cut her throat on this day. Seeing Tian, who was bleeding profusely, Young became extremely indifferent and angrily rebuked, "It's good to die. The woman who stole the man should have died a long time ago." Tian fell into a pool of blood. In the previous life, Young completely disregarded Tian's life and death. He walked up to Tian, picked up the bloody kitchen knife, and ran towards Tian's traitor, dog child. "Dog child, UQJ, my wife, I want to kill you." The two of them were fighting together, and Gowazi couldn't beat Young with a kitchen knife. After a few strokes, he was chopped down by Young. The villagers are panicking, hurry up and report to the police. Young was arrested by the police. 6 months later, after a public trial, Young was sentenced to life imprisonment. At the trial meeting, Young realized that Tian had been wrongly blamed for everything. The dog child from the same village sees Tian as beautiful, and is also one of the most beautiful daughter-in-law in a radius of more than 10 miles. He became envious, and when Young went to work in the fields, he touched Tian's room. Tian shouted loudly, and in a fit of rage, the little dog bit back and cursed Tian as a bitch. After getting into bed with him, she refused to admit it. Since Young got married for 3 years, apart from playing cards and gambling, he has hardly cared about Tian and Gowazi's derogatory words. Surprisingly, Young has believed them all. He rushed home and beat Tian up, causing the villagers to be startled by such a loud noise and run over to watch the excitement. Tian was wronged by this. She thought her man would do his best to protect her, but to her surprise, Young would rather believe in Gowazi than her. At that time, women valued chastity more than life, and Tian had a strong and resolute personality. She ran into the house, picked up a kitchen knife, and rushed to Yang's face to cut it. Young killed Gowazi and paid for his life. He was supposed to be sentenced to death, but Gowazi was at fault first. In the end, Young sentenced him to life. In prison, Young was filled with remorse. He tormented himself crazily, desperately stepping on the sewing machine, creating several firsts and becoming the most hardworking person in prison. Due to tormenting himself so much, he actually made several merits, reduced his sentence 4 times, from indefinite to indefinite, and finally only served 6 years in prison before coming out. After coming out of prison, I found out that my parents had died of depression, and my in-laws had both passed away 3 years ago. And her 4-year-old daughter, Shyness, was left unattended and accidentally drowned in a large reservoir. Young cried uncontrollably. Not long after, several brothers and sisters in the family gathered together and made money to open a foreign trade company for him. Young worked frantically, learning English with several foreign trade salespeople. For 20 years, foreign trade business spread all over the world. He also became an excellent entrepreneur. He just never remarried. In this lifetime, he will never forget. He killed his wife and his daughter. And indirectly killed his own parents and parents-in-law. He is not qualified to marry and have children again. Later on, no matter who came to the media and how beautiful the woman was, Young always refused. Time flies by, 40 years have passed in the blink of an eye. Until one day, Young suddenly coughed up blood. Several older brothers and sisters quickly took him to the hospital for examination. After various tests, it was found that he had lung cancer, which was already in the late stage. Relatives shed tears, but Young had no trace of fear. He breathed a sigh of relief, and an unprecedented sense of relief arose. Finally, he could quietly leave this world. A month later, in the ICU emergency room of an advanced cancer hospital, Young was covered with various tubes and advanced instruments monitoring his physical condition throughout the process. But no matter how advanced the equipment and drugs are, they cannot save his life. On his deathbed, he murmured and wriggled his lips, but no one could hear his voice. Tian Tian, I can finally come and accompany you. Will you still hate me? If I could start over, I would definitely take good care of you, accompany you, and love you. Tian Tian, I apologize for you in this life, and I will definitely not miss you again in the next life. Finally, the electrocardiogram became a straight line. Yang's mind was still shouting, Tian Tian, I'm here. I'm here to accompany you. Unexpectedly, in the vast expanse, heaven pitied him and exchanged his lifelong regret for a chance to be reborn. He has been reborn. Reborn in the moment when Tian Tian was about to raise his sword. Tian Tian. Suddenly, Yang let out a roar, disregarding his bloody head being pushed to the ground by the dog. He rushed over as quickly as possible and snatched the kitchen knife from Tian Tian's hand. You bastard, let me die. Tian Tian's eyes were filled with despair. Her husband, who had been married for 4 years, didn't believe her, but trusted that naughty little dog. She is only 20.2 years old, just a blooming flower, and Gowazi is a pile of annoying feces. How could she possibly have slept with such stinky dog poop? Yang, open your dog's eyes and take a look, Tian Tian twisted with Yang as if crazy. If you're a man, let go and let me die. But at this moment, how could Yang possibly let tragedy happen again? He threw the kitchen knife under his feet, and with both hands exerting force, he held Tian Tian in his arms. Tian Tian. I was wrong. It was me. You are innocent. I believe you. Yang murmured with a completely indifferent expression. Urgent help, Universal Reader Circle. My friend, that guy has too long skin, his quality of life has declined, and his wife is not satisfied. What is there to do? Chapter 2. This revenge must be avenged. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yang's sudden apology made Tian Tian's face turn red. Surrounded by villagers watching the excitement, they inexplicably looked at Yang, who had been cursing Tian Tian for a second before, but in the second, they disregarded everyone's surprised eyes and hugged their little wife. In 1987, the countryside was very conservative. How dare you embrace the opposite sex in public like this? Even my own wife wouldn't dare to hug like this in broad daylight. Yang, let go. Tian blushed with embarrassment and whispered. If you forgive me, I'll let go. Yang looked down at his little wife and said affectionately. Tian raised her head and looked at Yang with a clear yet gentle gaze, all of which was love for her. She had never seen this gaze even on her wedding night. I remember Tian's wedding night, when Yang got drunk and grabbed the red thick substance that covered her head, carrying a strong alcohol smell all over her body, and then took her. The snow-white towel spread on the bed did not show any redness, and the two of them had a quiet argument the next day. Since then, Yang has been constantly doubting everything, and Tian has no place to appeal even her biggest grievances, so she has to silently bear them. She is clearly a pure and self-loving petite girl. Before meeting Yang, she had never even met a stranger man. How could she possibly lose her virginity? After 4 years, she saw such a change in Yang's eyes for the first time. You quickly let go of me and talk to me inside. Tian blushed and pushed Yang away. She panicked and hugged her 4-year-old daughter, hiding inside. Yang, you despicable bastard, I messed up your wife and gave you a big green hat, not to mention, your wife has a great figure and great kung fu. The dog child was chattering shamelessly. He was wearing fashionable bell-bottoms and looked at Yang askance. If I were you, I would take care of that woman who doesn't follow the rules of women. What else do you want her to do? Yang snorted coldly. If it weren't for Rebirth, he would really think that way. But now, as a person of 2 generations, he has long understood the treacherous intentions of Go Wazi. He wanted to stimulate Yang, and in a fit of anger, he would retire Tian, and then he would find a way to entangle Tian. He can't let the woman he has a crush on run away. Dog child, open your dog's eyes wide and look at yourself. You look crooked like a rotten jujube, thinking that my Tian would take notice of your deformity. You have such thick skin that you feel inferior to the walls of a 1,000-li city. You're still here, bibibi. Even if you go back to your mother's belly and reheat, my Tian wouldn't look at you for such a shameful appearance. Yang cursed fiercely and immediately confused Go Wazi. The villagers who were watching the bustle around were savoring Yang's words before slowly recognizing the flavor. This curse doesn't contain a single dirty word. When did someone come out of the Yi family's house who could say such profound words? You. The little dog wanted to speak, but couldn't say anything. What the hell are you still doing here? Do you want me to use a knife to kill you? Get out of here, don't embarrass yourself. Speaking, Yang picked up the kitchen knife on the ground and pretended to go and chop it. I'll dig up this silly guy to take advantage of my Yi family. Yang's elder brother Qian also saw the clues at this moment. He was irritable and raised his hoe, rushed to his own little brother's side, and dug at the dog's body. The little dog was startled. The 2 brothers came up together, but he couldn't get any benefits. You guys wait for me. The little dog ran away with a disheveled face. Yang stood quietly there, watching the dog child who had escaped from afar. He thought to himself that he had been killed in his past life, and that he had been sentenced to life. He would no longer be such a scoundrel in this life. But this grudge, Yang will definitely seek revenge. In this life, relying on the advantage of rebirth, even if you play, you have to kill the little dog. Not only did he slander his wife, but he also indirectly caused his family to perish. If this revenge is not avenged, it is in vain to be reborn as a person. Big Brother took out a long bamboo cigarette holder, stuffed some tobacco into it, lit the tobacco, took a puff, and exhaled a faint smoke. Sigh. He let out a heavy sigh and quietly took out 50 cents from his pocket, stuffing it into Yang's hand. Brother, go buy some food for the mother and daughter. They haven't eaten anything for a few days and are almost starving. Speaking, he shook his head and walked slowly. The people from the village who came to see the excitement gradually dispersed, leaving only Yi Yang standing outside. After marrying Tian Tian for 4 years in his previous life, he suspected her for 4 years, and even his biological daughter Yi Yuting was seen as a thorn in his side, often scolding and beating. And now God has given him a chance to be reborn, allowing him to return to the moment before his wife's death. He seized the opportunity to stop Tian Tian's suicide, and at this moment, he felt like he was in a dream. He bit the tip of his tongue heavily, and immediately felt pain and numbness spreading. This is not a dream. Yi Yang smiled to himself, took big steps, and approached his own adobe house. At the door, he pushed open the door and walked in. Outside is a bright day, and entering the room feels like entering darkness. After a brief adaptation, Yi Yang finally saw the two people in the room clearly. Tian Tian sat by the bed, and Yi Yuting hid behind Tian Tian, looking at him in fear. "I'm sorry, wife." Yi Yang approached Tian Tian and reached out with guilt, wanting to hug her shoulders. Unexpectedly, Tian Tian panicked and accidentally kicked the small stool next to her over. "What do you want to do?" Tian Tian pushed his hand away. When Yi Yang asked her for money, he liked to pretend to be caring. Once he received the money, indifference would appear on his face again. "Yi Yang, you really can't change your dog's habit of eating shit, and you want money again." "I don't have any money now. Ting has been hungry for a day and a night. If you have some conscience, go get some food. Don't starve your daughter to death." Yi Yuting shrank back in fear and whispered, "Dad, I'm not hungry. Don't hit Mom." Yi Yang just realized that his 4-year-old daughter is so sensible. She would rather be hungry than have her father beat her mother. Tian Tian looked at Yi Yang with disgust. She didn't know what was going on to prevent her from committing suicide earlier, but she knew that the people who had been beating and scolding her for 4 years wouldn't change so quickly. She thought of divorce. If she doesn't divorce, she will definitely die in the hands of Yi Yang. Yi Yang. Tian Tian gritted her teeth and mustered the courage to say, "Let's divorce." She calmed down and said, "I'll just take Ting with me, I don't want anything else." Tian Tian is ready to be beaten. If Yi Yang hits her again, she will leave here with Ting and never come back. Yi Yang swallowed his saliva. He didn't dare to touch Tian Tian, but instead reached out his hand and said, "Tian Tian, give me 3 days. If I don't change these 3 days, you can divorce me, okay?" And Yi Yang's heart was silently praying, "God bless, I hope Tian Tian can agree." P.S. Brothers and sisters who like this book, please add a bookshelf. You can kill it after fattening. Thank you. Chapter 3. Catching Eels. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Yang prayed that Tian Tian could forgive him, but for the past 4 years, Tian Tian's personality of being prone to verbal abuse has deeply ingrained in his memory. How could he possibly believe his words? "Get out of here. Get out of here now." Tian Tian pointed to the door and shouted, while Yi Yuting's eyes were filled with tears, afraid that her father would hit them again. Yi Yang had no choice but to walk out. "In another month, we will be able to harvest rice. Our family of 3 has divided 1 acre and 5 cents of rice fields, as well as 1 acre of vegetable fields. Now, it is a time when there is a shortage of crops. The rice in the fields is not yet ripe, and there are only a few small green peppers and 2 small cucumbers in the vegetables. It will take 1 or 2 days to eat. No wonder her mother has been hungry for a few days." Yi Yang remembered that in his previous life, he learned the technique of catching eels from a fellow inmate in prison. After being released from prison, he also caught eels for a while. Now is the breeding season for eels, which is a good time to catch them. Now they are so poor that they jingle. Catch some eels to improve their lives, we can't let them go hungry. He picked up the fish basket hanging on the wall, put on a bamboo hat, and walked out barefoot. About a mile away from home is Datong Reservoir. During the Great Leap Forward in the 1960s, the Datong Township government built a dam there, making Datong Reservoir the largest reservoir in the county. After the 1990s, power stations were also established above to supply electricity to rural areas in several surrounding townships. After being released from prison in his previous life, he found a puddle near the Datong Reservoir, and no one except him knew that it was a natural gathering place for eels. The environment and temperature here are particularly suitable for the survival of eels. But he was 7 years ahead of his previous life. Perhaps this place has not been infiltrated by the reservoir yet. Yang decided to take a look first before making a decision. He carried a fish basket and crawled into the back mountain, passing through a thorny land that almost no one dared to enter, and then through a dark cave. This depression with 4 cliffs appeared before his eyes. There's water. Yang is overjoyed. If there is water, there must be eels. The water here seeps into the crevices by the reservoir, with a suitable temperature and no natural enemies, making it an ideal habitat for eels. Countless eel holes are as abundant as cow hair, and Yang let go of his hands and feet to grab them. These eels have almost no natural enemies, with 1 or 2 small ones, and the larger ones weighing half a pound. In no time, the fish basket was full. Weighed, at least 10 pounds. Yang returned on the original path, helped the fallen thorns and covered the road before walking towards the county market. After finally walking to the county, I sat down next to the farmer's market and opened the lid of the fish basket. A full basket of eels slowly wriggled inside. So many wild eels. The lid of the fish basket had just been opened and a person looking around nearby saw it. The man had a big belly and a flushed face. He took a few steps to approach Yang and chuckled, "Young man, how do you sell this eel?" 1 yuan, 6 and 1 jin. Yang looked up at him and knew it was a big customer. "It's too expensive." The person shook his head. "I'm a purchaser at the county guest house. I'll take all of your eels for 1 yuan. 1 yuan. This is 20 cents lower than the market price, but it can be sold at once to save waiting time here. After a long time, the eel will lose its activity due to water shortage, and the price will not be able to sell." "Sure." Yang nodded. "Young man, come with me." The purchaser took the lead and walked nearly 200 meters before arriving at the county guest house. Yang followed the purchaser into the kitchen and weighed the eels on the scale, weighing a full 11 pounds. After removing the half-pound fish basket, there were actually 10.5 pounds of eels. At a price of 1.40 yuan, these eels were sold for 14.7 yuan. In 1987, an ordinary worker's salary was only 32 yuan per month, and Yang earned half a month's salary in a day. "Young man, can we still catch this eel? You can send it again tomorrow at today's price." Yang remembered that the director of the guesthouse was named Xia Shaoqian because in her previous life, Xia Shaoqian contracted the guesthouse and later developed it into the first 3-star hotel in the county. After 10 years of hard work, she successively established 5 3-star hotels in other counties and cities, becoming the famous richest woman in Blue Sky County. Her struggle story has been broadcasted on television multiple times, so Yang remembers this name very clearly. "Okay, I'll give you 10 pounds tomorrow," Yang patted his chest and said boldly. "Maybe there's a chance to meet Xia Shaoqian and see what's unique about this female powerhouse. Young man, if you come over tomorrow and don't see me, just say, 'Look for Lu Zhongqiu' or 'Look for old Lu,' and they will bring you to find me." As the purchaser Lu spoke to Yang, he took out a stack of money from a nearby drawer, drew out a large unity sheet, and also took out 4 yuan and 7 cents in change, placing it in Yang's hand. Yang took the money and carefully placed it in his close pocket. "Say goodbye to Lao Lu and leave the guest house." With the money from selling eels, Yang went to the department store in Blue Sky County. Since 4 years of marriage, Yang has never given a gift to Tian. With a huge sum of 14 yuan, he is calculating what kind of gift to give to Tian. In the only department store in Blue Sky County, expensive televisions and bicycles cost a few hundred yuan. Feeling the 14 yuan in my pocket, I smiled helplessly. Turning a corner, my eyes suddenly lit up. In front of me was a clothing area filled with various sizes of clothing. Dacron. A new noun jumps in Yang's mind. This is a clothing that was popular in the 1980s, with bright colors, resistant to dirt, look, and wash, and more comfortable to wear than cotton without any lumps on it. Yang remembered that Tian had been with him for 4 years and had never worn a decent piece of clothing. Her already plump and slender figure was hiding inside patched clothes, appearing so insecure. And what my daughter Yuding wears is all made from old clothes worn by adults and then made smaller by village tailors before wearing them for her. Every time she sees someone wearing new clothes, Tingting's eyes always show a look of envy. But she never dared to say yes because her family was too poor, and even the money was taken by Yang to buy wine and drink. If Tian starts blaming, he may be scolded lightly, or beaten severely. Thinking of this, Yang couldn't help but feel a pain in his heart. Let's start over in this life and give them a warm and everything they need home. Currently, high-quality clothing is indeed the most suitable gift for mother and daughter. Yang chose a pink floral dress and a white women's shirt, which is currently the most popular style. Then she chose a small dress and a pair of pink sandals for her daughter Yuding. Waiter, how much does it cost? Yang said to the checkout waiter. The total is 12.4 yuan, said the waiter with a cold expression, impatiently glancing at the price. Yang remained silent and reached into the small pocket of his tight shorts, taking out the money. He counted 12.4 yuan and handed it over. Chapter 4. Gifts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When the waiter watched him take out money from the small pocket of his underwear, he felt a wave of disgust. What a blind farmer, all the money is in his pants. The waiter murmured and took the money, slapped it hard into the cash box, and then proceeded to nibble on melon seeds. Yang didn't say anything. The waiters in state-owned department stores need to have some connections to get in, and they have a secure job. No wonder they pull so hard. In this era, an iron rice bowl is the sky. I took 2 fashionable plastic bags from the counter, packed my clothes, and left the mall. As I passed by the guest house, I spent 30 cents on 6 large meat buns from the window facing the street. He packed 4 steaming big meat buns, and wolfed down the remaining 2 in just a few bites. There are only 2 yuan left in my pocket. It's time to go back. Yang took big steps and arrived at the village in the evening. The fields in the village have already been contracted to households, but there are still incidents of hunger, which is much less than in the 1960s and 1970s. At this moment, the chimneys of every household began to emit bursts of green smoke, and they began to make a fire and cook. Only the earthen brick house of the Yang family was deserted. He walked to the door, pushed it open, and walked in. The mother and daughter were in the kitchen when Tian took out a bowl of pre-cooked sweet potato rice from an iron pot and brought it out. Ting, come and eat it quickly, she said. Sweet potato rice is actually a sweet potato harvested in autumn. After washing it in a large bucket, it is cut into small sweet potato grains that are as thick as sand with a knife, and dried as a ration. This sweet potato rice doesn't taste sweet and has a very bad taste, it can only barely fill the stomach. Yang stood outside and saw his 4-year-old daughter holding a small bowl, scooping up a spoonful with a spoon and struggling to chew it in her mouth. Then he closed his eyes and swallowed again. Ting. Yang felt a pain in his heart as he quickly walked up to Yuding, wanting to hug her. But Yuding was so scared that she quickly hid behind Tian, leaned over, and looked at him in fear. Ting, Dad bought you a meat bun, come and eat. Yang took out the meat bun in his hand and handed it to Tian. Where did you get the money? Tian asked in panic, don't do anything foolish. Yang understands Tian's meaning. Don't go grab someone else's money just because you're hungry, as it could lead to imprisonment. He lightly patted Tian's shoulder and said, don't worry, your husband never does anything sneaky. I earned this money seriously. You can eat with confidence. Tian glanced at him and felt that Yang in front of him was different from before. But she couldn't tell exactly where it was different. Tian gave a bun to Yuding, then opened her small mouth and took a gentle bite. This big meat bun is at least the size of a big rice bowl in rural areas, and it has a lot of juicy meat inside, with a bite full of oil. Tian's eyes lit up, this meat bun is really delicious. After taking a few bites, he was about to put the other one into his mouth when he saw that Yang had nothing in his hand. He handed the steamed bun over and said, you also eat one. Yang grabbed Tian's hand and stuffed the bun into her mouth. Wife, you can eat it. I've already eaten it, he said. Tian's eyes suddenly turned red. Has the man changed his gender? Or is she thinking about a jade bracelet passed down from her ancestor in her hand? But this jade bracelet will never be sold to him. I won't sell it even if I die. Yang seemed to know what she was thinking and laughed heartily. Wife, from today on, I will make sure you live a good life and never break your promise. Humph, can you believe what you're saying? How many times have you said such things in these 4 years? When you need me, you talk sweet words. When you don't need me, I'm just a superficial woman, not following the rules of women. As she spoke, Tian suddenly covered her mouth, tears pouring down her face. Her shoulders were trembling with tears, and she dared not cry loudly for fear of being heard by others outside. Yang quickly reached out and hugged her in his arms. Wife, I'm sorry, I won't say that to you again. Yuding is very sensible. She hugged Tian and Yang's thighs and shouted, Dad, Mom, don't cry, smile. Both of them were amused by Yuding's cute appearance. Tian had tears on her face and smiled as she picked her up. Mom wasn't crying, she had sand in her eyes, she said, but Mom, how could there be sand in your eyes if you didn't go outside? Yuding's simple words made Tian feel awkward. Yang quickly released Tian, opened the plastic bag next to her, took out the newly bought Dacron skirt and shirt, and stuffed them into her hand. I bought them for you, you can give them a try. Mom, what beautiful clothes, Tingting also wants them. Yuding's face showed a look of envy. Tingting, here you are. Yang opened another bag and took out a small dress, as well as a pair of pink sandals. Ah! Tingting screamed, Dad, is this for me? What a beautiful dress, what beautiful sandals. A 4-year-old child from the countryside already knows how to dress herself. She wants to wear this beautiful dress and go out to play with her friends and show off. Tingting, you can only wear it after taking a shower. Tian quickly took the clothes from Tingting's hand and went to prepare hot water for her. What did you do today? You don't have 13 or 14 yuan to buy these clothes, can't you? Tian was puzzled as to why Yang earned so much money today. I caught 10 pounds of eels and sold them for 14 to 7 cents. Apart from buying gifts and food for you, I have $2 left, all for you. As he spoke, Yang took out a few crumpled banknotes from his pocket and handed them to Tian. Tian stared blankly at Yang. She couldn't believe that Yang had started making money and had given it all to her. Should we divorce or not? Tian's heart is starting to loosen up, want to give him another chance. After taking an early shower for Yuding, she put on her newly bought Dacron dress and sandals, reluctant to take them off. Helplessly, she had to coax her to sleep before taking off her clothes and covering her with a small blanket. Wife, should we try this dress? Yang said impatiently under the oil lamp. For 40 years, he had never been close to a woman. Now that he has been reborn here and the person he had long dreamed of reappears in front of him, his heart palpitates uncontrollably. Tian stood up, burned some hot water, took a hot bath, and then put on her floral skirt and shirt before walking out. Under the oil lamp, Tian's beautiful and charming figure was perfectly displayed in front of Yang. The white area was so white, and the black area was also black. My past life was really blind. Such a charming and beautiful wife was not cherished properly, and she would constantly beat and scold me. Damn it. Tian blushed as she saw Yang's cannibalistic gaze and gently cursed. I'm going to sleep, Tian said and walked towards the bed on her own. What about me? Yang was extremely anxious. Go take a shower. Tian said shyly and covered her face with a blanket. Yang quickly got some water, rushed for a while, wiped himself dry, and then jumped onto the bed. P.S. Brothers and sisters, thank you for your support. I will write it down. Chapter 5. Capturing Wang Ba. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Early the next morning. Yang got up from the bed. Pick up the pole, fill the water tank with water, and then pick up the toothbrush to wash. Then he carried 2 fish baskets, glanced at Tian who was still asleep, and quietly kissed her forehead before walking out. As the door closed, Tian immediately opened her eyes. Last night, Yang seemed to have taken aphrodisiac and wanted to come in, but she didn't have any mind. She strongly resisted, as in the past, Yang didn't care about anything, he had to vent his frustrations before he could be satisfied. But last night, this man saw her refuse and for the first time did not go any further. I just hugged her from behind and fell asleep quietly. This abnormal phenomenon made Tian unable to sleep. She finally fell asleep, but the next morning, she woke up and touched the head of the bed. The man had already gotten up. She heard the sound of fetching water outside and also heard him preparing something. Is he going out to make money again? The bedroom door opened, and Tian quickly closed her eyes and pretended to sleep. As her masculine aura approached, her heart suddenly became stronger. Suddenly, a mouth kissed her forehead, causing her to almost scream in fear. But I still held back. She didn't open her eyes until the man left, her heart pounding wildly. She quickly got up and took a few cents in her hand to buy a pound of dried noodles for her daughter to eat. Yang arrived early at the secluded paradise, burrowed into the cave, and began to catch eels. There was plenty of time to catch this time, so Yang was not in a hurry. After 2 hours, he actually caught 2 full fish baskets. 2 fish baskets weigh 20 pounds, almost 30 yuan. Equivalent to 1 month's salary for an ordinary worker. After resting for a while, he took out a torch cigarette, lit it with a match, and took a few puffs. At that moment, he suddenly noticed a movement in the nearby mud. He looked carefully and saw that the mud was slowly retreating, as if he had discovered his enemy. Bastard! Yang exclaimed in his heart, took a few steps over, and suddenly picked up this bastard. This is in my hand, heavy, at least not less than 3 pounds. This big bastard can be sold for at least 5 yuan per kilogram, right? In 2000, a wild octopus could be sold for 150 yuan per kilogram. Now it's 1987, and the estimated price is only 5 yuan, so there won't be much increase. This place was discovered by Yang by chance, with a hidden terrain and no one has ever come. I found such a big queen here, so there must be more than one here. As expected by Yang, he captured 2 more big rascals in this less than 200 square meters of space. In just 2 hours, we caught 3 big rascals and 2 fish baskets of eels. He grabbed a long wooden stick, tied Wang Ba with a rope, hung it on top of the stick, quietly poked his head out of the hole, looked around, and saw no one. He crawled out, restored the hole, and rushed straight towards the county guesthouse along the small path. As soon as I arrived at the back kitchen of the guesthouse, I met old Lu head on. Such a big bastard. Old Lu shouted as soon as he saw Yi Yang carrying the bastard. Young man, you are so capable. Lu Zhongqiu laughed heartily as he was about to get some fresh dishes to entertain the leaders who often come to eat in the county. Unexpectedly, Yi Yang sent 3 wild big kings over. If combined with some tonics, Wang Ba is a great tonic. Young man, all the eels you sent yesterday were used up in one night. Thinking that 10 pounds wasn't enough to eat today, your boy actually sent 2 large fish baskets over. In the future, you can give as much as you can catch, and we'll take all of them. Lu Zhongqiu's loud voice spread far and wide from the staircase in the kitchen, even reaching the office on the 8th floor. At this moment, a woman in her 30s came down the stairs and saw Yi Yang carrying 3 such big kings. She also came to watch the excitement. Director, you see, this young man brought eels over yesterday, and today he brought eels over again, bringing in 3 such big bastards. When Lao Lu saw the woman, he quickly flattered her and said. So she's Xia Shaoqian. Yi Yang couldn't help but take a second look. Xia Shaoqian is not ugly, of medium height, somewhat overweight, and looks very shrewd. Hello, young man. The eels you sent last night were used to entertain important people, and they praised them endlessly after eating them. In the future, if you get any game, just send it over and I'll charge you as much as you want. The price is definitely more reasonable than what's outside. Xia Shaoqian smiled slightly at Yi Yang and said, just like Lu Zhongqiu. It seems that the county leaders must have been very satisfied after eating these wild games yesterday. Yi Yang remembered that Xia Shaoqian was a national civil servant, at least a department-level cadre. Later, she resigned and went overseas to contract a guest house, developing it into the largest hotel in Blue Sky County. At the same time, she also opened several 3-star hotels in other counties and cities. For Yi Yang at this time, a department-level cadre is a very high level. If he were to switch to another department-level cadre, he would definitely be superior. How could he chat with a young man from the countryside? Xia Shaoqian also observed Yi Yang. Tall and robust in stature, such handsome young men are rarely seen in rural areas. Xia Shaoqian nodded secretly, thinking to herself that this young man not only has a handsome appearance, but also can work hard and endure hardship. As long as he is willing to work hard, he can easily maintain a wealthy family. If you have a flexible mind, you may have even greater success in the future. Xia Shaoqian suddenly became curious and asked where Yi Yang's hometown was and how many people there were in the family. Yi Yang then told her one by one. Later, Xia Shaoqian shook hands with him and left the kitchen. After Xia Shaoqian left, old Lu patted Yi Yang's shoulder and said, "What luck did you have? The director has been chatting with you here for so long." "Xia Sua never speaks much to us kitchen staff," said one chef with envy. Old Lu is actually within the system, but his rank is not high. Otherwise, he won't be able to become a purchaser with plenty of money to spare. Xiao Yi, Lu Zhongqiu's nickname for Yi Yang, also changed to affectionate Xiao Yi. This eel weighs a total of 21 pounds, and according to yesterday's price, this eel is 29.4 yuan. These 3 big octopuses weigh a total of 9.8 liang, and according to the market supply price, the price is 4.9 yuan, 48 yuan and 0.2 cents. The remainder of these 2 cents will be removed, and a total of 77.4 yuan will be given to you. Lu Zhongqiu took out 7 Great Unity tickets and also took 7 1 yuan 4 corner tickets and handed them to Yi Yang. "Xiaoyi, please order more." Yi Yang took the money and put it directly in his close pocket. "Uncle Lu, this is more useful." "I believe you." When Lu Zhongqiu heard Yi Yang call him Uncle Lu, he immediately became happy and said, "Xiao Yi, just call me Uncle Lu. If there is anything I can help you with in the future, just say it out and I will help if I can. Yang smiled apologetically and said, Uncle Lu, there's really something small that I need your help with. Lu Zhongqiu was taken aback and became curious. What can I do for him to help? Chapter 6. Shyness, Mom Kisses Dad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uncle Lu, it's like this. My family has run out of grain and I want to buy some grain to go back, but I don't have a grain receipt. Can you help me get a few pounds of grain receipts to solve the recent food shortage? The planned supply of ticket buying and selling did not completely exit the historical stage until the early 1990s, but it was still needed in the late 1980s. It's just that it's not as strict anymore. You can buy things without tickets, but they are 10.2% more expensive. What am I talking about? This is just a small matter. You can just take a bag of rice back from us. It weighs 50 pounds and costs 20 cents, which is 10 yuan. Just deduct it from tomorrow's goods. Speaking, Lu Zhongqiu asked someone to carry a bag of rice and put it in front of Yi Yang. Yi Yang was also polite, picked up the rice, bid farewell to Lu Zhongqiu, and carried the rice bag out of the guesthouse. Not long after walking along the road, I ran into a cart from the village. The driver was my cousin named Yi Fang. When he saw Yi Yang, he called out, Yi Yang, what did you buy? Hurry up and get in the car. Uncle will give you a ride. Yi Yang placed the rice on the ox cart and then jumped onto the cart. He took out a package of torches and handed one to Yi Fang. I just bought a bag of rice, Uncle Yi. Yi Fang took the cigarette and said, Yi Yang, your family is so poor that you are jingling. You also smoke a good pack of 20 cents. Your Tian is a good wife, don't hit her anymore, listen to your uncle's words, okay? If Yi Fang had said this in his previous life, Yi Yangli would have ignored him, thinking he was just a dog biting a mouse and meddling in his own affairs. But after being reborn, he realized that Yi Fang was genuinely concerned about him and hoped that he would live a good life. Uncle Yi Fang, I understand. Yi Yang took out a match and lit a cigarette for Shi Fang. I will make her mother and daughter live a good life together. Is that just right? Now that the land is divided into households, every household has land to cultivate. As long as you put in some effort, you're still afraid of starving. In the future, we'll have another family with children and daughters. What a great family. Yi Fang chattered incessantly all the way until it stopped at Yi Yang's house. Yi Yang took 2 cents and stuffed them into Shi Fang's hand. Uncle Yi, thank you. Then he picked up the bag of rice and waved at Yi Fang. This kid seems to have changed. Yi Fang shook his head and smiled, driving the ox cart away. Mom, Dad is back. Yi Yuding hid behind the door and saw Yi Yang carrying a big bag walking in from a long distance through the crack. Dad also bought a big bag of things. Yi Yuding added in surprise. Tian listened to her daughter's words and quickly opened the door, only to see Yi Yang appearing at the door. Hurry in. Tian wanted to take the bag, but Yi Yang refused. It's so heavy, 50 pounds. What is this, rice? Tian asked incredulously, smelling the aroma of rice coming from the bag. Yeah, it cost 10 yuan. Yi Yang said calmly. 10 yuan. Tian exclaimed in surprise, you've been scammed. The rice in the cooperative is only 1.2 cents per kilogram, and it's only 6 yuan for 50 kilograms here. Yi Yang smiled but didn't speak. This rice was bought by the county guesthouse, using high-quality rice specifically for entertaining officials from the county and other places. How can it be compared to ordinary rice from the supply and marketing community? I'll know when she makes the rice later. At this moment, Yi Yang heard a shout from outside. Selling popsicles, mung bean popsicles, cheap, 5 cents per stick. Yi Yuding also heard this voice. She turned her head to look at Tian, but her eyes were filled with longing. Mom! Tian was ruthless, as if she hadn't seen it. Yang exclaimed happily, Ting, let's go. Dad will buy you popsicles. Really? Yuding's face immediately showed a surprised expression. Yang hugged Yuding and walked out. Ice cream seller, wait a moment. Yang shouted. The bicycle immediately stopped and turned to come in front of Yang. Take 2 mung bean popsicles. Yang took out a penny and handed it to him. The popsicle seller opened the wooden box and took out 2 mung bean popsicles that were emitting cold air from the thick cotton quilt. He quickly covered them and said, Here you are. Yuding reached out to take the popsicle, peeled off the paper, picked it up and licked it. It's delicious, so sweet. As he spoke, he jumped off Yang's body and ran into the room at a brisk pace. Mom, Dad bought a mung bean popsicle, it's delicious. You can also take a bite, said Yuding, holding the popsicle in her hand in front of Tian. Mom is not hungry, Ting eats. Tian swallowed and turned her head. Ting, Mom's here. Yang peeled off another mung bean popsicle and stuffed it into Tian's mouth. Tian gave Yang a glare, but still obediently ate it. Dad, why don't you? Dad doesn't eat. Yuding had something to eat and began to forget the days when she was beaten before, and her relationship with Yang clearly rose several steps. Dad doesn't like to eat. Yang smiled, but when he noticed that Yuding wasn't wearing the dress and sandals he bought, he asked, Ting, why aren't you wearing the new dress and sandals? Yuding pursed her lips, tears glistening in her eyes. Mom doesn't let me wear. Yang glanced at Tian and said, the clothes are meant to be worn when you buy them, otherwise they will be stored there and spoiled. Or will you wait for the weather to cool down for 2 months before wearing them? Tian's face turned red and she couldn't refute his words. Ting, take out your new clothes and put them on. Dad will take you to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy food. Really? Dad, you're so kind, I love you. She stood on the stool, hugged Yang's neck, and kissed him before happily running into the room to change her dress. There were only 2 people left in the room, and Yang finally took out the 77 yuan from his pocket. Take out 7 great unity cards from them and hand them over to Tian. Wife, this is what I earned today, 77.40 yuan. I bought a 10-cent popsicle and used 20 cents for the ride. I'll give you this 70 yuan, and I'll go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy some things. Where did you earn so much money from? Tian's face showed surprise. You can earn 2 months' salary from someone in a day. Oh my, did you go rob a bank? Yang had no choice but to tell Tian about the hidden place where Wang and the eel were caught. You know, don't talk nonsense. You can only catch them for up to 3 days inside, and it won't be until next year. Tian tightly grasped the money in her hand, sweating profusely in her palms. I know. You have to be careful, I heard Wang can bite people. Upon hearing Tian's words, Yang began to feel a sense of care. He immediately felt uneasy and wrapped his hands around her waist, saying, I want to kiss. No shame. Tian's face turned red and couldn't help but curse softly, but she still booed on Yang's face. Shy, Mom kissed Dad. Tian was extremely angry. This little brat actually put on a dress and stood at the door quietly watching them. Chapter 7. Anxiety and Unease. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yang smiled awkwardly, picked up his daughter, and gave her a kiss on the face. You and Mom are both Dad's favorite people. If Dad kisses you, he loves you all. Yuding nodded in confusion. Dad, shall we go to the supply and marketing cooperative? Okay. Let's go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy delicious food. The father and daughter held hands and walked out of the room together. Yuding tightly held Yang's hand, with a smile on her face. Every time she sees someone she knows, the little girl just smiles and greets them very politely. I didn't mention my new dress at all, but my little hand casually lifted the hem of the skirt, always making it visible at a glance. Oh my, Shouting has bought a new dress. Did your mother buy it for you? No, it was my dad who bought it for me. Yuding said proudly. When he arrived at the supply and marketing cooperative, Yang bought 20 paper-wrapped candies for 10 cents, I bought salt, monosodium glutamate, and spent 27 yuan to buy 3 pounds of meat. Then I bought a 1 yuan bottle of ergoto and held it in my hand. In addition, I bought a pack of Changsha cigarettes for 70 cents, which are some of the better cigarettes from the 1980s. Tomorrow when I go to the county, I have to bring a better pack of cigarettes and not make any friends with Lao Lu. Yang came out of the supply and marketing society carrying large and small packages, and then returned home. Tian has already prepared dinner, and the fragrant smell spreads from afar. She picked some green peppers and 3 small eggplants from the vegetable garden. As soon as he came out of the dish, he saw Yuding riding on Yang's shoulder, and the father and daughter walked in happily. After putting Tingting down, Yang took the green pepper and eggplant from Tian's hand and said, "Let me stir-fry the dishes." Tian was stunned. She had never seen Yang cook dishes before. Can he cook well? Doubt turned doubt, and she still handed the kitchen knife to Yang. Yang is very skilled in cutting vegetables. He cuts another piece of meat into thin slices. Then he fried a green pepper, twice cooked pork and braised a braised eggplant. "Wife, go call my older brother over and I'll have a drink with him," Yang said to her. In the previous life, when he came out of prison, his elder brother Qian helped him the most and also cared about him the most. Although his second brother Shi has helped him, Shi always likes to scold him and says many unpleasant and sarcastic things. This time when the dog came to harm the Yang family, Shi only stood by and didn't say a word. In no time, Qian walked over. "Yang, what are you doing? Where did you get so much meat?" Qian walked in, smelling the aroma of the meat, and asked him. "Big brother, I made a little fortune today." Yang doesn't want to tell Qian this secret yet, so he just said he made a little fortune. Qian saw that his younger brother didn't say anything and didn't ask any more questions. Put 2 small stir-fry on the table, Yang took out the bottle of ergoto, poured a large glass for Qian, and then took a small wine cup, poured a small glass of wine, and placed it in front of him. "Third brother, what's wrong with you today? Can you enjoy drinking such a small wine cup?" Big brother Qian was a bit puzzled. "Big brother, I will try my best to drink less alcohol in the future." Qian nodded, feeling relieved in his heart. If one's younger brother can change, it proves that the family is developing in a positive direction. Thinking back on the past 4 years, Yang's family had a big argument of 369 and a small one every day. The whole family was about to become the poorest in the village. After arguing, Yang drinks alcohol, gets drunk and hits people and smashes things, and all the valuable things in the family are gone. If this continues, even the wealthiest family will become poor. But when Tian saw Yang returning with wine, she felt uneasy. If he goes drunk again tonight, these days won't last any longer. She also tied the over 70 yuan in small bundles with rubber bands, tightly tying them in the pockets of Yuding's clothes. Whenever Yang went crazy under the influence of alcohol, she would carry her daughter and fly away. Unexpectedly, Yang only got himself a thumb-sized wine cup. Even if he drinks 10 cups of this kind of wine, it is less than 3/4 of his elder brother's wine glass. Tian breathed an inexplicable sigh of relief in her heart. Has he really changed? Tian felt flustered in her heart. If he had changed, it would have been great. Even if fined, we still have to give birth to a son for him. Chen took a few sips of wine and began to speak more. Yang, the coal mine in the village will open tomorrow. There are several people on our team who are going to dig coal, and the salary is high. 5 yuan per day earns 150 yuan per month. Village coal mine. Yang suddenly remembered a big event, which happened on the afternoon of the 16th day of the 6th lunar month in 1988. A gas explosion occurred in their village's coal mine, and all 15 miners who went into the mine died inside. This incident caused a huge uproar throughout the entire Blue Sky County. County Chief Li Ji was dismissed, Township Chief Chen Chen was dismissed, and Village Branch Secretary Lei Hong was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Most of the villagers who invested in the village lost their money. And none of the deceased's family members received compensation because this coal mine was not approved and did not have a business license. It was done spontaneously in the village, and all the responsibility is borne by the village. Not good. Yang was taken aback. Big brother, there's a problem with this coal mine. You must not participate. Chen asked in confusion, others can dig coal in the mountains, why can't we? Besides, our coal is close to the ground and can be mined as long as we dig 10 meters deep. This is black gold, very valuable. Yang cannot explain this matter. 3 of them died in their group, and 2 of them were still from their own family. Big brother Chen invested all the 300 yuan he had in his family, but lost it all and was greatly affected. Big brother, if you believe me, you will take back the shares tomorrow, otherwise you will lose everything. Nonsense. I don't have any money, I don't have any money to invest. Chen completely didn't believe Yang's words, because he took out the money behind his wife and children's back, only he knew. Big brother, you didn't know that the coal mined in the village's coal mine is bituminous coal, which is highly toxic and contains a lot of gas. Once a gas explosion occurs, no one can escape. What is gas? I've never heard of it. Chen didn't believe Yang's words. Yang once again explained to him all the effects and consequences of the gas explosion. But Chen is still half believing and half skeptical. Big brother. Listen to me, the total amount of money you invested in this time is 308 yuan. You invested it without telling your whole family, and only you know it yourself. If you don't recover it in time, you won't come back with a penny. Yang's words were like a blow to the head, hitting him on the head. This money is indeed a stock that he bought without telling his whole family. He originally intended to sell coal from the coal mine, so he divided the money according to who paid more. No one knows about this except for the village chief and him. Now my own younger brother inexplicably knows what's going on. Chapter 8. Redemption of Shares. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The wine that Chen drank immediately turned into a burst of cold sweat and floated out. He woke up from drinking. Yang, how did you know that I had so much money invested in it? Yang had to tell a lie. Last night, I had a dream that our coal mine would have a gas explosion on June 16th. June 16th. Chen calculated that it was the day when the village committee's brigade planned to officially produce coal, which was set by their major shareholders and the village branch secretary. No one said anything about this, my younger brother can't possibly know. After all, they didn't read much books and always summarized the unknown things into ghosts and gods. By this time, he had already 90% believed Yang's words. Yang, I will go early tomorrow morning to retrieve the shares. Chen had no intention of drinking anymore. He stood up, feeling overwhelmed and almost tripped over a low stool. Yang quickly supported him and sent him home. Then he entered the door and closed it. Well. You go take a shower. Tian didn't call him Yang's name, but poured him a large basin of hot water and asked him to take a shower. After Yang took a shower, Tian had already slept in bed, just like last night, facing inward with her bare back facing Yang. "Wife, I'm here," Yang shouted and hugged her from behind as he went to bed. The summer night is so charming, Yang caresses Tian's creamy skin, as if in a dream. Tian's heart began to beat wildly. Has he improved? What if he hasn't improved yet and then hits and bullies her again? Yang, you sleep over there, Ting is here. Tian thought for a moment, but still suppressed her inner desire and refused Yang. The next day, Yang got up early to fetch water and made 3 bowls of egg noodles, and Tian finally got up. Yang, don't you go fishing for eels today, right? What's wrong? Yang looked at Tian with confusion. Big brother went to the village to ask for money. What if he doesn't come back? Why don't you go over and support him? Yang nodded. I really should go help, otherwise with my big brother's temperament, I may not be able to handle those few brigade cadres. The two of them picked up the egg noodles on the table and chattered loudly. Tian grabbed the eggs from her bowl and was about to give them to Yang, but Yang suddenly stuffed the eggs from her bowl into her mouth. She ate the egg with a sweet heart. My own man finally cares about people. My own man has finally started to take care of his family. I know how to stir fry, how to cook, and how to fill my water tank at home. This change is so significant that she can't even believe it. In no time, Yang finished his noodles and arrived at his elder brother's house. The two brothers didn't say anything and walked out towards the village branch. Qian and Yang, why did you two brothers come so early today? The village branch secretary Lei Hong greeted the two of them with joy. Qian took out a bag of torches from his pocket, handed one to Lei Hong, and another to Yang. He picked up the cigarette stick himself, stuffed a bubble of tobacco, lit the fire, and took a sip. Lei Jishu, I came here today to reclaim my shares. I don't want to invest anymore. Lei Hong was still smiling a second ago, but when he saw that Qian wanted to withdraw his shares, he immediately stopped. Qian, this matter is not easy to handle. Now all the money has been spent in the coal mine, buying trees, detonators, explosives, all of which are money. Where else can I give you money now? Lei Jishu, I saw over 1,000 yuan in my account yesterday. It's not a big deal to lose my 300 yuan. Qian lowered his head and said, without my shares, you can still get some more money. That's a great thing. No way. This is a big deal, you can't just give up. Lei Jishu took a puff of his torch cigarette and threw it on the ground, stomping on it. Lei Hong, I advise you to immediately refund the money to my brother. Otherwise, you illegally mine coal without the consent of the Mining Bureau or the Industrial and Commercial Bureau. How dare you use the country's mining resources without permission? Yang's thunderous words frightened Lei Hong. Although he is the village branch secretary, he has no knowledge of what business license or registration is required, and only knows how to collaborate with the villagers to dig coal. You can refund the money, but you must deduct the handling fee. 308 yuan, I will refund you 298 yuan. Lei Hong only came up with this trick. 10 yuan is already a lot of money. If Qian is willing to lose this 10 yuan, then just refund it to him. When he finds coal and sells it for money in the future, he will regret it. No, I said Lei Jishu. You can't do this. 10 yuan, I have to work hard for 10 days to earn. Qian was very angry. With such a quick move of his mouth, he was greedy for 10 yuan and didn't do anything to say. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and refund us the money. Yang stopped Big Brother and said to Lei Hong. Lei Hong sneered and refunded 298 yuan to Qian. Earn 10 yuan early in the morning, it's great. Lei Hong watched as the brothers walked away and stuffed the 10 yuan into his own pocket. He chuckled inwardly and walked towards the coal mine. The two brothers breathed a long sigh of relief when they saw that they had brought the money back. Yi Yang, why don't you return that 10 yuan? Yi Qian was somewhat unwilling. Big brother, if you want to get 298 yuan back, it's not bad. If he doesn't want to give it to you, he must use it as shares. You can't do anything about it, and in the end, you won't get any money back. Yi Yang had to explain to him. Yi Qian nodded slowly, but he still frowned and had to find a way to solve the matter of those 15 lives. Yi Yang, if your dream is really accurate, we need to find a way to stop them from digging. Yi Qian took a sip of the welding cigarette rod and sprayed smoke, saying. 6 days later, on June 16, 15 miners will die in this disaster. And they are all from the same village brigade, looking down but not looking up. There are 3 of them in their group, and these 3 have been friends with Yi Qian since childhood. Big brother, if we stop, these people will treat us as vandals and maybe drive us out. Yi Yang does not agree to stop it now. Let's give it a try, maybe they will listen. Yi Qian still didn't give up. Yi Yang didn't speak. People nowadays are so poor that they only have one life left. Wherever they have money to earn, they will desperately seek it out, regardless of whether they live or die. They will definitely not succeed in stopping it. But let Yi Qian suffer a bit. Yi Qian left the money at home and quietly hid it before walking towards the coal mine with Yi Yang. Today is the day when the coal mine starts construction. We need to dig a large mine hole diagonally, with a maximum distance of 100 meters. When we reach a depth of more than 10 meters underground, coal can be produced. They estimate that it will only take 6 or 7 days to dig this hole and extract the first truck of coal. Their coal here is bituminous coal, which is sold at a high price. In Datong Township in 1987, the price of bituminous coal was nearly 25 yuan per ton. If we dig 10 to 20 tons a day, it won't be long before a lot of money will fly into their hands. The Yi Yang brothers walked over from a distance and saw a large wooden shed set up at the entrance of the coal mine. Several miners were digging coal tunnels. They used simple hand carts to dump carts of gravel and soil blocks onto the edge of a nearby cliff, back and forth, with high enthusiasm. Lei Hong saw the 2 of them coming and thought they regretted it and wanted to invest again. He said expressionlessly, "Want to invest? There's no chance now. Lei Jishu, you can't dig this mine." Yi Qian walked up to Lei Hong and suddenly shouted loudly. Chapter 9. Picking up a wild boar at night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Qian's voice sounded like a thunderbolt in the ears of these workers. Yi Qian, you bastard. If you say you want to withdraw your shares, I will immediately give them back to you. But now you're saying you can't dig. You're here specifically to cause destruction. Lei Hong stepped forward and grabbed Yi Qian's collar. With a loud slap, he gave Yi Qian a heavy slap in the face. Yi Qian, if you continue to cause trouble, I will push you off this cliff. Lei Hong's face showed a ferocious expression, like a beast about to erupt, staring fixedly at Yi Qian. A few leaders in the village gathered nearly 2,000 yuan worth of shares, and finally excavated. How could Yi Qian stop them? A few workers are digging hard. They calculate the money based on the amount of soil they dig. Even if it costs a lot of money, how can Yi Qian stop them from making money now? One of the miners rushed over, his pole dancing wildly in his hand. Yi Qian, you wild brat, why are you so worried? I finally managed to earn a few dollars, and you're jealous. I'll kill you. Several other miners also picked up their carrying poles and rushed over. Yi Qian still wanted to speak, but Yi Yang pulled him and turned his head to run. The miners saw the 2 of them flee like wild dogs and burst into laughter over there. Big brother, how are you? Does it feel good to be beaten? Yi Yang looked at the red mark on Yi Qian's face and chuckled. Yi Qian ran out of breath and said angrily, the dog bit LV Dongbin, you really don't know how good people are. Big brother, that's not their fault. It's strange that you stopped them from getting rich and didn't work hard with you. To save them, you have to find a way from another direction. Yang said coldly. Qian stood still for a moment and said, only 6 days. If so many people die, I can't help the people in the village. As he spoke, Qian squatted on the ground, heavy-hearted as he sucked on the welding cigarette rod. Big brother, I'll figure it out. Yang remembered that Xia Shaoqian is the director of the county guesthouse and is very familiar with the county leaders. If Xia Shaoqian were to convey the message, would they be stopped? Yang, if you save these 15 people, the whole village will thank you. Qian had already placed great trust in his younger brother. When Yang returned from the mine, he secretly thought to himself that he would bring a flashlight and catch 2 baskets of eels overnight. Tomorrow morning, he would go to the county to find Xia Shaoqian and explain everything to her. He would ask her to pass on the message to the county leaders, and this matter would probably be successfully resolved. After returning home, Yang cooked a pot of rice and stir-fried 2 small dishes. After eating, he told Tian about going to catch eels at night. Tian didn't know why she had to go catch him at night, thinking it was specifically requested by the people in the guesthouse. So I didn't say anything either. After dinner, Yang didn't do anything and fell into bed, covering his head and sleeping soundly. I slept until 11 o'clock at night. He just got up, picked up the 3 bright flashlights, carried 2 fish baskets on his back, and even brought a bundle of thin ropes. If he caught Wang Ba, he could tie it with the ropes. Familiar with the road, he entered alone and found those long yellow eels wriggling out of the mud, swimming and eating plankton and small animals on the water surface. Tie a flashlight to the straw hat on top of your head and carefully start catching, which is much easier than during the day. At 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 fish baskets of eels, and 4 big 8, the harvest is already full. When leaving, I used a flashlight to shine around and found that there were many rock caves nearby, and perhaps there were also some big rascals inside. But now he doesn't have time to catch any more. Wang Ba, who weighs less than half a pound, was released by Yang without even looking at him. I will catch up on it when I grow up in the future. Out of this paradise, Datong Township is now dark and gloomy, entering the tranquility before dawn. Yang walked along the quiet mountain road, carrying a fish basket on his back and 3 octopuses. Suddenly, a groan came from the nearby grass. He couldn't help but slow down his pace. Place the fish basket and tied Wang Ba aside, pull out the wooden stick and hold it in your hand, slowly touching the place where the snort was coming from. It's already this point, won't there be anyone here stealing love? I don't think so. Yang took a few more steps closer, and with the faint moonlight, he finally saw a dark little wild boar lying there, groaning weakly. Upon hearing the sound, the little wild boar wanted to run, but was bound by something and couldn't run away. Yang turned on his flashlight and saw that the little wild boar was caught in a specialized wild boar clamp on its front leg. The clamp's teeth penetrated deeply into the leg, and the blood was almost drained. Seeing Yang approaching, the wild boar wanted to struggle, but had no strength to move, even its cries were so weak. Yang was really surprised. Quickly returning to the roadside, he took out the remaining rope and carefully wrapped the wild boar's big mouth around it. With one force, he wrapped it tightly for dozens of times, only able to breathe and not even hum. Then he tied his limbs together and finally untied the wild boar clamp, lifting the wild boar up. After weighing it, it turned out to be around 70.80 pounds. With Yang's tall stature and growing up in the countryside, there is no problem carrying over 100 pounds and walking for dozens of miles. I once remember a person from the same village who specialized in walking, picking 150 kilograms of goods every day and walking for hundreds of miles. That's really impressive. However, Yang is used to being idle and can pick up 100 pounds, almost reaching his limit. He tied the wild boar to one end of the wooden stick, placed the fish basket and Wang Ba on the other end, and added 2 large stones to avoid balancing the burden. After resting countless times on the way, I finally carried the nearly 130-pound burden to the county guesthouse. At this time, there were no other people in the kitchen of the guesthouse besides the chef who made breakfast for the guests staying at the guesthouse. The chef had already met Yang and quickly greeted him, "Master Yi, why are you so early today? To make a living, there's nothing I can do." Yang took out a Changsha cigarette from his pocket and handed it to the chef. "Master Yi, what a nice cigarette." The chef took a sip and quickly exclaimed in admiration. "Today, Master Yi got so many eels, and even Wang Ba got a wild boar." The chef was smoking while looking at the goods picked by Yang. "Lucky, it's really lucky." Yang didn't say much, just waiting for Lu Zhongqiu to come over earlier. After a busy night, tired and hungry, the chef saw this and quickly cooked him a bowl of shredded meat noodles. Yang said thank you, took the big bowl, and ate the noodles in big gulps. Chapter 10. Reporting Hidden Hazards. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Lu Zhongqiu arrived late. "Xiaoyi, why are you so early today?" Lu Zhongqiu looked at Yang with disheveled hair and red eyes in surprise. "Uncle Lu, I didn't sleep the last night and ended up with a wild boar, 2 fish baskets of eels, and 3 big 8. Wild boar." Lu Zhongqiu was taken aback. The wild boar was strong and not afraid of people. It was afraid that it would have to go through a struggle to kill the wild boar, right? Speaking, Lu Zhongqiu looked at the wild boar again. At this point, the stomach of the wild boar was still heaving, but there was no strength left to move. "Still alive." Lu Zhongqiu smiled, "The price of a live wild boar will be higher." "Xiaoyi, you really have it. This time our guesthouse will receive praise from our leaders again." The wild boar was weighed, with a gross weight of 72 pounds. "Master Shaoli, while the wild boar is still alive, kill it quickly so that the meat is delicious." Lu Zhongqiu instructed the chef. He turned to Yang and said, "Xiao Yi, can I give you a price of 1.5 yuan for this wild pork based on its gross weight?" Yang nodded without saying anything. "This wild boar is equivalent to being picked up by chance, which also means that I am destined to make some small fortune." By this calculation, wild boar meat was sold for 108 yuan, eel was sold for 29.4 yuan, for big 8 were sold for 59 yuan, and a total of 196.4 yuan was obtained. "Oh no, this is equivalent to someone else's salary for 6 months. Lu Zhongqiu walked with Yang to the procurement warehouse next to the kitchen, opened a drawer, and took out 19 great unity cards. "Uncle Lu, you can just give 190 yuan, and you can keep the rest, even if it's for buying cigarettes for you." Lu Zhongqiu was about to get change when Yang stopped him. The more Lu Zhongqiu looked at Yang, the more he liked him. This young man really understands the world. He smiled heartily and did not refuse Yang's kindness. "Xiaoyi, you're good. Uncle Lu sees that your future prospects are limitless, and I'm not sure if you're married. Uncle will introduce you to a city girl from the county. How about that?" Yang awkwardly scratched his scalp and said, "Uncle Lu, don't make fun of me. As a young man from the countryside, I dare not marry a little girl from the city. Besides, I am already married and have a 4-year-old daughter." Lu Zhongqiu nodded and said, "Are you married? That's not bad, but your wife will be beautiful. She has endless money to eat with you, hee hee." Uncle Lu laughed and said, "I don't have that ability." The two chatted haphazardly, but in the end, Yang pulled Lu Zhongqiu and said what he wanted to say. "Uncle Lu, I have a big matter that I want to tell the county magistrate through Director Xie. I wonder if Uncle Lu can help with this." Lu Zhongqiu gave Yang a thought-provoking glance. It seemed that this young man really had something to ask of him. But what does he want? "Xiaoyi, if you have anything you want to ask the county mayor for, let me know." Yi Yang then talked about the excavation of coal mines in the village, and analyzed the composition of the coal underground in their village. It is expected that a large amount of gas will overflow and a gas explosion will occur. Uncle Lu, this small mine has 15 people per shift. If there is a gas explosion, no one will survive. Such a major accident will have a huge impact on the county mayor. Lu Zhongqiu is also a person within the system, and he has read a lot of the inner canon. He understands that if an accident occurs, the county magistrate will also take responsibility. He glanced at Yi Yang again, and this young man was becoming increasingly unable to see through. Looking at the essence through phenomena, even some elderly people may not have such a vision. Xiao Yi, wait for me here for a while, and I'll come when I go. Lu Zhongqiu said, letting Yi Yang sit on the leather chair. He closed the warehouse door and went upstairs. On the 8th floor, Lu Zhongqiu gently knocked on the door. Come in. A majestic female voice rang out from the door. Thank you, are you busy now? I have something important to report to you. Lu Zhongqiu entered the door, half opened it, and asked softly. Uncle Lu, close the door and sit down and say, Xia Shaoqian closed the ledger on the table and gestured for Lu Zhongqiu to sit over. Early this morning, Yi Yang brought 2 fish baskets of eels, 4 big eels, and a 70-pound wild boar, giving him a total of 196 yuan and 40 cents. Lu Zhongqiu spoke softly. Uncle Lu, if you're talking about this, please come back. I'm busy right now, Xia Shaoqian interrupted him without hesitation. Xia Sua, this big event was brought about by Yi Yang. He said that a new coal mine in their village has a major safety issue. If possible, a serious accident with 15 deaths could occur. What? Xia Shaoqian stood up suddenly. As a deputy department-level cadre, she also participated in various cadre meetings and knew how serious an accident was when 15 people died. That's why I'm so surprised. Lu Zhongqiu saw Xia Shaoqian so surprised and quickly stood up. He said. What Xiaoyi means is that if such a big accident could have been caused this time, it could have affected the township head and even the county head. He asked me to tell you. You don't have to say it. Xia Shaoqian waved her hand and said, Is Yi Yang still down there? Please invite him up. Okay, I'll go down now. Lu Zhongqiu quickly left Xia Shaoqian's office and returned to the warehouse. Xiaoyi, your situation has raised some eyebrows. Thank you for wanting to see you. Lu Zhongqiu opened the door to the warehouse and pulled Yi Yang upstairs. Yi Yang and Lu Zhongqiu knocked on the door and entered Xia Shaoqian's office. Meanwhile, Xia Shaoqian was on the phone and said, Okay, don't worry, I will definitely handle this matter. Speaking, Xia Shaoqian hung up the phone. Subsequently, Xia Shaoqian sat in the boss's chair, slowly lifting her head and looking at Yi Yang. Xiaoyi, is what you said true? Xia Sua, this matter is absolutely true. The location of the coal mine is low in terrain, much lower than other mountains, and it is also on the edge of the Datong Reservoir. Therefore, there is also a lot of accumulated gas. When the coal is excavated, the gas gushes out. As long as there is a little spark, it can cause an explosion. Yi Yang clearly remembers that in his past life, he received this news from his elder brother Yi Qian, who sent him something to prison. It was a news published in the newspaper. At that time, I was very bored. I read this newspaper countless times, but in the end, I was able to memorize this news. How could he possibly make a mistake? It's like this, Xiaoyi. Some geological experts will come over later. Let's go and take a look at the site together and see if it's as you said. Xia Shaoqian patiently explained to Yi Yang to avoid any concerns.